buddy. I haven't done it in a while. It's been like a dozen episodes since I've done it.
It's been a while. It has been a while. And I think I'm just going to include that and say, hey, everyone, welcome back to Rally Caps. It's a podcast for artists, entrepreneurs, and everybody in between. I'm Steven.
And I'm Eric.
And sometimes we talk at the same time. Like with Joshua's episode recently, actually. I was
so proud of that.
Which is very fun. Yeah. If you're new around here, thanks for joining us. Really appreciate you tuning into this episode on YouTube or Spotify, one or the other, Apple Podcasts, all that good stuff. If you happen to be watching right now, hey, like the video. And that's my only call to action, I guess.
Yeah, like it.
Subscribe to the channel.
Yeah.
Because that's what we are.
That's the first topic today. Which is there's no plan for today, by the way.
Oh, if you haven't guessed that already, you are in for a treat this episode.
It's going to be such a fun episode though, because you get to see like us and our banter and how we are and how we're doing, which is really fun.
A life catch up.
But let's just kind of take the wave as a surfer would.
Yeah.
So
barrel the wave.
And the first thing we're going to discuss is YouTube and this YouTube channel.
Yeah.
So if you're a longtime listener or regular listener, you know that we're a demonetized YouTube channel.
Correct.
Not of our own fault. We are very clean and put together and don't say inappropriate things ever.
Never. We save that for our Patreon.
Yeah. Like recently, the past month, the channel's kind of been on fire.
Yeah, it's been going really well,
yeah.
Which is kind of why we decided to take this one as a little time to just like hang out, catch up with all of you a little bit. Because a lot of themed episodes.
Bangers coming.
Yeah, the lineup recently has been awesome.
Yes.
Want a little bit of breathing room. And then the next, basically our pathway, this is episode 95, our pathway to 100 is crazy.
Big ramp.
Really strong guest episodes coming very soon that we're very excited to share. And then episode 100, which will be coming out in like mid-November, something like that. We have some exciting plans for that too. And if you want to actually contribute to the Q&A portion of that episode or kind of just like have a general sense of what's going on, you can join our Patreon for free. Like completely
99.
free 99. I never get tired of that joke.
You will eventually.
Eventually, probably. Yeah, but not yet. You can join for free and just like kind of be part of the Rally Caps community there. That's where we post all the updates and kind of source feedback for the show.
I think it's fun that we are like finally and truly starting to lay foundation for community building here because it feels like there is so much momentum in the Rally Caps world.
Yeah.
It feels like we're building a much bigger base of listeners, people that are showing up regularly. And it feels like that's manifesting a lot on YouTube.
Yeah.
Particularly, I mean, you have all the stats on downloads, so I never really look at that. So I kind of use YouTube as a metric to see like how the show's performing and that stuff. But I think it's really cool that we took a lot of intentionality to do that this year and seeing the rewards of that, of like really, really caring about titling and thumbnailing and being really diligent on show prep and like having notes and doing that sort of stuff, landing guests and following through on what we said we would do.
Yeah.
Like being regular every single week.
Yes.
Getting one out every single week.
Yep.
And then also saying like, oh, we're going to have guests on soon. And actually delivering on that too. It's just been really fun and satisfying and cool. And we're noticing, and we knew this to be true, but we're noticing that guest episodes definitely bring in more subscribers because the intersection of their community or their following that's interested in the topics we talk about are coming over and wanting to subscribe and listen. And that just obviously fuels the fire.
And a lot of those people don't typically have long form places to share thoughts. So they don't host their own podcast. They don't make necessarily long YouTube videos on their own channels or share long form stuff on their social platforms. So to be able to be the people to bring something like that is very unique to that person's audience is really special. And it's fun to get to pull back the curtain a little bit for whoever that person might be. And the guest episodes coming up, again, really excited about them. Like some really cool stuff coming. People within kind of our world of photo, filmmaking, film photography, people we really respect and admire, close friends. Really excited to bring them on and kind of get their thoughts and opinions on whatever it is we end up talking about with them. So yeah, good stuff going forward. A lot of great momentum so far this year. And as we were talking about this yesterday, actually, I had this thought. I was like, the name of the game with podcasting, because you mentioned our consistency so far this year. It's like, I feel like podcasting is an endurance sport in many ways, like legitimately, because it is the compounding effect of being consistent and delivering on your word that really, I think, creates exponential growth. Because people like with a podcast in particular, I feel like with YouTube videos or like Instagram posts or whatever, like you can miss stuff, or people need to take a week off from a regular posting schedule or whatever it might be. And you're like, that's fine. Like they're making a whole video kind of thing. But a conversation like this becomes a part of people's weekly rituals in their commutes, in their editing, in their work lives, in their personal lives. Like this becomes a part of like a routine for them. They know, it's every Monday at 7 a.m. it goes live kind of thing. It's in time for my commute, for example. And I think that bond is so strong, and to be able to be reliable like we have been all in 2024 feels so freaking good to just deliver on that promise that we set early on. And so then to have that steam that we built and that momentum, and then translate it into more episodes like this, but then branch and bring those guest episodes in, it just like oh my gosh, like that like fuel on the fire kind of feeling is incredible. Like absolutely insane.
I also think in places like Hulu are doing this now, where that type of media in today's landscape is the 7 p.m. Monday night show that you used to watch with your family. It's the America's Got Talent. It's the singing show or whatever. But it's in podcast form, and it's that thing that people are regularly coming to and knowing that they will be able to listen to it that Monday morning, as opposed to YouTube, where some people will fall into that rhythm. It's not, I feel like it's a very niche amount of YouTube channels that'll be like, I post on this day at this time.
Yeah.
I would venture to say it's less than 5% of the platform that does that. And so much more algorithmically based, both Instagram and YouTube, that whole idea. And that really changes the landscape of how you make things, because so many people are bought into how can I make the best video to perform for the platform, and the way it rewards videos and the way I make them this way. Whereas quantifying the success that we see on a much smaller scale than super viral channels on YouTube is this slow, methodical growth over time. And zooming out, one of my favorite things to do in our YouTube studio on this podcast is zooming out to the 365 timeline and seeing the regularly planned videos and just the serial nature of posting and the spikes, and seeing those slowly elevate and get larger over time. Yeah, there's something really profound about that. And I think that's what so many people need to keep going. And that is the reinforcement. So to bring it back to the running metaphor is like, you have these kind of lines in the sand of performance in the show or whatever, where one episode just takes off. It's almost like a really good race. And it's this line in the sand of showing what the progress is. But that doesn't mean that you come off of that thing and then don't train at all anymore. Don't put any consistency back in it again.
Yeah, you keep going.
Yeah, you may have a rest period, you may have a down, whatever, but then you keep beating that drum. And for me in particular, that's a huge reason why running has been so profound retroactively in my life as well, is it was a direct focus for a few years of like, I need to put consistency into this thing to perform and to get the outcome, which it's not that it hasn't been that recently. It still is that, and that's a huge driving force. But the recognition of that consistency having that outcome has been applicable to me, and understanding that principle is so widely helpful in the landscape of business, of artistry, of creativity. And I really feel like that is what so many artists struggle with.
It's consistency.
Yeah. It's just this like, just show up and do it in some capacity, or challenge yourself to show up and do it, even if it's bad.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I feel like that's just it's like the foundation of this show, right? It's the tension of how can you remain consistent in the healthiest way possible, right? It's not forcing yourself to be consistent in a way that completely burns you out, but finding a way to be consistent and allow that consistency to show you growth. And then that growth or that return is fueling you to continue to be consistent.
Which is both in the way that we actually make the show and also the drum that we beat in general on the show, like topically. So it's like behind the scenes and in front of the scenes, which is kind of cool. It's like 2 levels of just championing consistency, which is for so long what we've wanted for Rally Caps in particular. And now that we're like so deep in it and have pushed through some of the harder seasons, because consistency can be difficult also, especially when you're producing something like this on a weekly basis. But pushing through that, you start to get excited about it. And it's not an obligation that you have, but rather something you look forward to.
Right.
And so then that excitement fuels the ability to actually make it and make it better and continually improve upon all of the foundational like bricks that you're laying each episode that we're putting out. Things are getting better and easier and more ideas are sprouting. And even just things like the Patreon, like spring up and we're like, this could be not only a way for us to offset costs for those like who choose to do that, but like more importantly, it could be a community group and it could be a place where we actually like crowdsource feedback with the most intentional fans, like the people that really want to be a part of it. Suddenly becomes very exciting and really empowering. Yeah. And it just feels very good to like see the momentum really pick up lately. And I'm like especially excited, honestly, to see like the like for anyone who doesn't run a podcast, Spotify, similar for like artists on the platform, they have a Spotify for podcasters platform, and they give you year-end analytics about the show and like where everyone's listening from and total streams and like all these like just stats on where you kind of fall in the sphere of podcasting. And I remember like last year, our year-end episode, we reviewed some of those analytics, and we only posted like 6 months last year. Essentially, I think it was like January to June, and then just completely dipped off. It had like a 6-month gap. This was 2023. And despite only posting for like 6 straight months and then nothing for 6 months, we still ended up like pretty highly ranked in a lot of people's like listenership, essentially. I couldn't believe how many like people, I think it was like 50 or so people, like we were their top show of the year. And we were only there for half the year. That's crazy. Like I can't imagine what it's going to be like this year.
Yeah, it would be pretty wild.
Like 52 episodes being published. Like what is that going to look like? And like just the encouragement that will provide, the feedback that gives us, and how much more that just like dumps more fuel on the fire. Like it's going to be very exciting, I think. So that's how the show's doing right now.
I feel like at least this far in the conversation, the title should be something about consistency or consistency breeding consistency. Yeah. Yeah, self-reinforcing. I came up with sort of a paragraph, if you will, the other day when it came to my running. I was getting a bit reflective about the brick stacking metaphor. And it was, the whole idea is on any given day, and to running specifically, this could be obviously applied metaphorically to whatever you're doing, creatively, business. And on any given day, stacking one brick might feel really daunting and be really daunting. But the reality is that one brick is a very reasonable step for you to do. Like you can totally handle it and manage it, but it might be really uncomfortable to like go out and do the thing and stack the brick. But the reality is over time, your ability to every day choose to stack the brick will lead to the outcome of you building a home. And this illustration of building the home, there's going to be a day where it's freezing cold outside and you're either going to be left out in the cold or you're going to have a place to rest and recoup. Yeah. And then I finished it with choose to stack the brick today because it's so impossible to think of building a home on your own. That idea is entirely daunting and feels impossible. And yet the only way it is possible is by one brick at a time or one step at a time. And so that sort of insignificant, what feels to be insignificant one step can lead to an outcome that is just massive for you.
Yep.
And that's ultimately what usually builds massive things. It's just these small incremental steps, the daily monotony of showing up in small ways. And sure, some of those might be a 5 brick day or, whatever you want, choose the illustration metaphor to be. But yeah, choose to stack the brick.
Yeah. That reminds me a lot. Well, 3 things. The first thing it reminds me of is James Clear, the author of Atomic Habits, like the concept of 1% better every day. It's the exact same idea. They're just like, what can you do to just become 1%? It doesn't have to be a doubling, a 100%, tenfold, incredible growth in one day. It's just like, what's like 1% better? Because if you just keep doing that for a while, you're going to be at that place where it's like 10, 20 times over in return, but just once a day. That's it.
I'm not doing the math, but the idea of that is like your 1% on one day, 20 years from now is like literally a 500% jump right now.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's just a massive step, but you're not able to be there until you have that 20 years prior to take that 1% step up that day in the future.
It can be daunting when you think of it all as like, oh, I have to do all of this stuff right now versus divvying up those tasks, those improvements that you want to make, those things that you want to learn in whatever part of business that you are in, and instead breaking it down and being strategic about it and more formulaic and just saying like, cool, today I'm just focusing on this one thing. It takes 30 minutes to learn, whatever it is. And then great, like that's your 1% better. Or maybe it's I don't know, an editing trick or like, I mean, there's so many ways that you could translate this into any part of the creative world and like the self-employment world, but that 1% could be whatever you choose it to be.
And an understanding of this concept is what can be so inspiring in following very impressive people online. And if you don't understand this concept, that's where the whole idea of comparison being the thief of joy is such a problem for people. Because they look at someone making their 1% that day and they're just like, they're just so perplexed and they're sitting there going, how? And I can never, and I will never be. But instead, if you reframe that to be, oh, that's their 1% 20 years from where I am or however long they are ahead of you. And that doesn't even need to be someone who's older than you or more experienced. It could just be that they have been doing that thing longer. But then choosing to look at that and say, I see a bit of myself in that and I want to be there and I will continue to do my 1% daily to try to get to that point. That's where it's like huge.
Sweet spot.
And that's in athletics, that's in business, that's in art.
That is in every facet of life if you just want to be a better person. So the first thing was James Clear, 1% better every day. Second thing is irrelevant, but I think of it every time I hear this brick stacking metaphor is Brick by Boring Brick by Paramore. That's the entire point. That's it. Just because it's a great song and a great band. 3, what is a specific example in your business life or creative life, the combination of those two things, in which you were not consistent and you felt the effects of inconsistency and how you learned from that?
I think recently, like my main channel has been that thing where I'm like, I just haven't been consistent on it at all. And I've seen the effects of it, like views drop off, people not as interested, all that. And I knew that was going to be an outcome if I wasn't going to be consistent with it. And recently it's more of a holistic understanding of what I have built over the past 5 years and what it means moving forward. Just spoke on this recently in a podcast with a friend that for years when I was building my main YouTube channel, there was no final goal in the process. It was just like, let's just keep growing this thing and see what comes of it.
This was back in like what, 2018 when you like really started to, like
the big explosive growth on the channel, getting up over 100,000 subscribers, I think was around 2021.
Yeah.
Like, getting a following that was very impactful and led to significant income. I was kind of put in a position, and this coincided with COVID. So I was faced with, I just really struggled to make anything during that time of significance that mattered. And I ultimately pivoted back into weddings as weddings started to come alive again. And then we made the classroom and all that stuff. But I never really had like a North Star ending point. And I currently, as I'm building Floberg Runs, don't really have that as well.
For that channel?
For either.
Yeah. Okay.
I know a lot of people who build a YouTube channel and have the kind of success I did on my main channel are looking at 1 million subscribers as this crazy North Star.
Sure.
Like,
okay.
I will get there, and I'm going to keep working until I get there.
Gotcha.
And sure, you can have a whole discussion about what the heck they do once they achieve that thing. But I never felt the need to get to 100. I didn't really care, honestly. And I made like a parody video when it happened. I just went like, ooh.
Yeah.
Like I really don't care too much about those milestones, but obviously it defines what you've created and what you made, and not to, make the achievement any less significant. But now I'm looking at these things that I've built as this foundation that I can currently sit on, because what my North Star has been really the whole time. It was really helpful to flesh this out with Ben yesterday on his podcast. It's been time and family as the outcome. Like, that's really what I have wanted all these years. And it's what I said from the beginning. And I think a lot of people didn't believe me in the process of that, because I was working up to 70-hour weeks in the thick of it, like crazy. And I was really the only person that could understand that it was a worthwhile investment for what I imagined it to be in the future, because I didn't know what the outcome was going to be in the future. But what I did know, that if I built like all of these, and I've used the illustration of like, not fires, but like kindling or coals. And at any point I could, if I wanted to, go over and throw more fuel on the fire to get that thing going again. And as long as consistency wasn't so bad that the fire went completely out, I now have the ability to really go in any direction a dozen ways and create income or build in a different way. And I love that versatility, because that discipline of showing up regularly for as long as I did in those ways now gives me the freedom to work 35-hour weeks. And now I have the flexibility of being able to coach my son's baseball teams, 2 of them, both of our oldest. I have the ability to work from home when I want to. Like, I don't feel guilty not coming into the studio. Like, and now that I had mentioned it to you, like, now that Creative Club is kind of not.
It's another part-time job that we don't have responsibility for anymore.
Now I feel less of an obligation to be here 5 days a week. And so that's as I build out my home office, that's going to be me at home more often, probably a couple days a week. So yeah, I think that ultimately I'm looking back at all of it and I'm going, I didn't have any metric on analytically or functionally when it came to income or whatever. I just kept growing it. And now I look back at it and I think, because although the main channel is what a lot of people would interpret as like dormant or even dead or whatever, it's definitely not. I know it's not, because I know the series of moves I need to make to bring it back to life.
Okay.
And I'm literally like in 4 conversations with sponsors that have sponsored my channel over the years that still want to work with me. Very long-winded, but at the end of all of that, it's the point I'm trying to make is the process of building the things has afforded me the flexibility I always wanted. And now I'm actually choosing to have the flexibility, and I'm not choosing to do more. I'm not choosing to bring that channel to 1 million subscribers.
Sure.
Because I could, and I know I could. but I know the sacrifice that it would take to do that. And I'm not willing to make that sacrifice. And I'm very at peace with that. And it's lovely.
Yeah.
And it's an idea. It's the idea of just not needing or wanting more and being satisfied with what I have, and maybe slow growth on top of that. And at least until, like our kids are grown and out of the house, I keep telling Sabria, like, I'm fine with having my work life be like this for 15 more years because it's sustainable. It provides for the family. We're growing still. And then once they're out of the house, that's when I can choose, okay, do I want to work for like 10 or 15 more years pretty hard and then we can retire or whatever? There's options then too. And then it'll be an even more robust foundation at that point.
Yeah. Yep. Cool. What does like picking up consistency on the main channel look like going forward? Like not even consistency, but just like videos, ideas, like if it were to become a more consistent investment of your time going forward, like hypothetically, what would that look like?
It would need to be driven by passion. That's my biggest thing. I know now I have no interest in going back to that channel and trying to make it come back to life just for the sake of trying to make it, excuse me, come back to life.
Yeah. Just to like have like the statistics like pour in and that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Right. I want, excuse me. I
that
want
tiramisu,
to,
man.
dude,
That's crazy.
I very much feel that right now. Oh,
I told you not to eat that right before.
I have visions of what it could be in ways that it could grow more exponentially in the future, but I know that it'll have to be based off of making really profound things that take a long time to make.
Sure.
And not beating the drum of I'm going to post every week.
For sure.
Or bi-weekly.
Yeah.
Whereas the running channel right now, I'm on the drum of posting every week, and I actually really enjoy it.
Yeah.
And that's what's so, I guess it's not so different from the main channel, because back then I was excited to make a video every week or at least 3 times a month. And that was pretty much the rhythm that I was, and I felt like there was definitely this feeling of like, oh, I haven't posted in a while. I feel the need to, not necessarily because I have to, but I'm like
that obligatory sense of like,
I got to make something.
I'm like itching because I'm not sharing something. Yeah.
And so I don't feel that way about it now. And that feeling would have to come back. But there's no consequence in needing it to grow or be built more, which is what it needed to be earlier because I needed to build that as a foundational brick to have opportunities later. I don't need that anymore. And I actually don't want it all that much. Like even with the size and scope that it is, I'm still getting inquiries in my email every other day from a decent brand that I could work with. And so I'm like, okay, if that's the case, and because the running stuff has been so successful, I'm just like, cool.
Yeah.
Like, I would love to make some really, really good short films or like documentary short doc or video essay style stuff.
Yeah.
And that could be 4 years from now. And that's fine.
Yeah. It almost feels like a house for passion projects. It's like a portfolio almost at that point. Like if you wanted it to be, if it's every other month, it's like a really well produced short doc, short film kind of thing. Great. It's just a portfolio now. It's almost like a show it to other brands kind of thing. Like if that's the direction you want to go in on your main channel, well, yeah, why not just let that thing be the proof of the concept? It's the same idea like we've talked about before. Like you show the work that you want to get hired for. It's like, well, if that's the stuff that I want people to know me for, I'm just going to start making those things, and that's it. It's not tutorials anymore. It's not like the educational stuff. It's like, it's the stuff that you're just really excited about.
Yeah. Because I don't want to stop shooting weddings. And like my Instagram post that I put up yesterday, I told Cyrus on our lunch break, I'm like, I know this post is going to probably book another wedding or elopement like it. And sure enough, DM like yesterday, right after I posted it, someone I've been talking to for 2 or 3 years, another creative, it's getting married.
Nice.
It's like, that kind of stuff shows up and I go, okay, if I only want to shoot 5 to 7 a year of this caliber and like in this style, that's how I do it. I'm not constantly revamping my website and making connections in the wedding world or whatever. Like I'm just going to do that couple posts a year where it's like, here's this set of what I'm capable of. And that reminds that person, oh, I wanted to hire Eric.
Yep.
And again, that's just like one of those fires. It's like, cool.
Yep.
And every once in a while I make that post on Instagram, gets a new lead, probably a new job. But to your point, not super interested, at least now, passion wise, to really teach anything in the creative world. I'm not going to say that chapter's closed and that'll never come back. I think I'll still from time to time feel passion to teach certain things. But I think I'm definitely entering more into an era of showing and not telling.
Yeah.
And like artistry and not education.
Yep. So it's funny. So now I'm going off like the 1% better every day. I started like sketching a thumbnail idea and like phrases and stuff for this episode because we went into it blind. But I'm kind of almost sensing like two branches now. There's like consistency is extremely important for something like our show, where it is important now and it continues to be in the future because you're building that relationship. And it is one of those things that, like I said earlier, becomes a part of their, weekly ritual. It's part of their routine. It's something that people can rely on. And then there's also this form of consistency where you can be consistent for, 5 years, 10 years building this one thing. And then because you put that consistent time into it, it now is at a self-sustaining place where you no longer need to be showing up every week or day for it. It actually is self-sufficient and you can kind of just pepper time on it rather than every week.
It's parenting.
It's parenting.
Which is a great segue into the questions I want to ask you then.
Oh gosh. Okay. Sweet.
So you have been laying the foundation yourself the past 4, 5, at least from the perspective of diversifying your Swiss Army knife.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Of skills in creative work years.
It would
that
be
was a great sentence.
That was a really cool one.
We got to the end.
Yeah, I'd say like probably a little over 3 years now. Cause like moving to Chicago for us was kind of that was the reason why we did it was because we wanted to be here so that things could spread out a little bit.
Yeah.
It was a hard lesson learned from COVID kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But kudos to you for making that move, because that was a physical representation of an emotional kind of disconnect you were feeling and desire for growth. And growth is definitely what you got. And knowing you very well, that growth was not fun a lot.
No.
And yet, and we don't need to go in the weeds of that unless you want to.
Yeah.
That growth has led to where you are right now.
Yes.
About to be a dad in 2 months.
Crazy.
2 months. In 2 days. And you now have this foundation of photography, filmmaking, commercial work, design, YouTube channel, podcast. You have plenty of fires. You have plenty of embers. How does that make you feel now going into that next step of life?
Yeah. I love having so many things to play around with. Yeah. And I love having the team that we have here in our new studio, especially because I think that support system is super helpful. And I like being able to do a lot of those things and to have a lot of different buckets to dump time into. I think my priority going forward with all of those different things is frankly just finding ways for all of those things to just make more money. That's the biggest thing. Because it's fun to have all those things. It's not very glamorous all the time, but there is a lot of potential in each thing. And I think being able to find the most strategic ways to leverage each of those kind of funnels in my business to maximize that exchange of money and time is really like my biggest focus going forward, honestly. The thing that I'm still kind of on the ramp up out of the ditch, so to speak, is substituting wedding income with a bunch of other things. And the reason I wanted to substitute that, which I think I've said on the show before, but maybe not as like explicitly because we only like recently announced that Laura's even pregnant, is that I wanted to be, before I had a kid here, I wanted to have more weekends available. I didn't want to be gone 30 weekends out of the year, the nicest weekends out of the year, the weekends that family vacations or trips with friends or like all of those types of things happen on. And also wanted to be available to actually attend my other friends' weddings and like actually go. I can't even think of how difficult it would have been even just attending my own sister's wedding 2 weeks ago, how difficult it would have been coordinating that if I was a full-time wedding photographer still. And that would have destroyed me if I wasn't able to be there because of a scheduling conflict shooting someone else's wedding. So scaling that back down from 30 to 5 or 6 is a pretty massive margin to make up. But doing that in ways that I think will be, again, I'm hoping will be really beneficial, specifically in the design world, because it is truly like the most remote job, remote version of creative work I can think of.
Perfect.
Because I don't need to be physically available to anyone at any time. Anyone there's a phone call or a DM away, and I can do that work literally anywhere in the world.
Wi-Fi connection and a laptop.
That's all I need. Don't even need a camera. I don't need like other gear. I could have I was gonna say a briefcase. That's fun and old fashioned. That's just a laptop. That's it. And I love that is continuing to gain traction and is giving me a lot of, I think, the life work balance that I want to have, because I just want to be around on the weekends. Like I don't want to start and then realize 2 or 3 years in, like, oh my gosh, okay, now I need to pivot. Now I need to figure out the plan B, having started a family on the foundation of like wedding photography income and then pivoting from there. I just wanted to try my best to like sort that out before even getting into it. So that's where I'm at right now. Still trying to like just open each of those taps a little bit more and find the right, I'd say, like balance between all of them. But yeah, it's nice to have, like on a creative level, it's really nice to have a lot of things to bounce back and forth between. On a business level, I think the momentum is getting to that point where it's going to start getting good soon. I can kind of just like, I can feel it like a crackle of energy on the horizon right now. Like I feel good about it. I think the right opportunities are presenting themselves. The right inquiries are coming in, the right people that I want to work with.
You're sitting over there just being a silent killer. Like sometimes I'll look over and be like, when did you land that? I'm like, hold up.
I feel like that's my philosophy around a lot of work in general is like, I do not count my chickens before they've hatched kind of thing. And I like,
whereas I count them all.
I keep my cards super close to the chest, like in general.
Steve, I got royal flush. We're literal opposites in that regard.
I keep it very contained for a long time because I just want to make sure it actually pans out. It actually lands, whatever that thing is, so that I don't get myself too excited about that thing. And then there's disappointment from it. It's like, I'm just going to set myself up, hopefully with like appropriate expectations. And then once it is official, absolutely kill it. Just like go for it with every part of my being and impress whoever that client is, that person is. That's how I've like operated my entire life. It's just like this resting nature inside of me. But yeah, I'd say that's like broadly speaking where I'm at right now. On the Rally Caps YouTube design photo front. I feel like those are the 4 biggest funnels. And then there's a 5th one that will be public in a week from this episode, week and a half. It's going out soon. I think we're going to start teasing some stuff about it soon. I'll talk about it in maybe like an episode of Extra Innings going forward.
That was the one. I'll keep it as disguised as possible. But that was the one where I saw the other day when you were working on it and we discussed it a bit. I go, oh, like your skill set in podcasting and like written stuff with moment and all this is kind of coming together in this new opportunity because this friend saw all your skill set and went, he's a guy. And I was like, yeah, you're the perfect fit for that kind of job.
That one I'm really excited about also because it's literally right up there with design in the sense that don't really need to be anywhere in particular to make that happen. Just need a laptop, a microphone, and that's it. Because I bringing all of myself as a designer as well into that. So it's like design experience in editorial writing, and then also interview skills. It's like, it's very cool to see that amalgamation of things all kind of coalesce in that way. It's rewarding in the sense that like I recently published a video, I think it's like a month ago, about being a jack of all trades.
Yes.
And like it was really fun to make. We talked about it on, I think it was my design episode of Rally Caps, actually like 5 months ago, maybe 6 months ago. That's where I pulled that original audio from. It was like unveiling the whole jack of all trades episode. It was like, or no, not episode, quote. A jack of all trades is master of none, which is usually where people put a period and instead it's a comma, and to finish it, it's like, but oftentimes better than a master of one. And that I felt so understood by that, because there are so many things that I have invested substantial amounts of time into, even going back to middle school until now. And I've carried a lot of those things. I mean, even just the fact that I was a musician in middle school, high school, like that was my primary identity, and being able to take those skills of like audio mixing and producing and then turn it into a podcast, stuff like that. Like all those skills translate over time. And I think that's what I've been fascinated by, is like how you can hold on to these skills and like take them out of one thing and apply it to a new thing, and then mix and match, and then combine 3 different things that you've been working on, and then turn it into like its own skill in this corner of the world. And
you're one of the only people that could do that because of the combination of things.
Yeah. It's worked lately. At least it has felt like it has worked especially well. Being able to tackle all of those things, like ranging from like really good, like it's my job kind of thing, to like, oh, it's been a hobby of mine for a while, let me like just sweeten it up a little bit, and then have enough of a skill there to combine it with the other 2 things. And then we have this new business, or this new thing that we're working on. It's exciting. I kind of want to explore that idea more, like the idea of like mixing and matching and like picking all these like puzzle pieces together from like all these facets of life, and then like just smashing them together and creating something brand new. I'm even as I'm saying it, I'm like, I kind of want to explore that more, like go even further, like beyond the jack of all trades video. I was like, actually kind of like explore that idea of like, how do you like remix hobbies and interests and then create something brand new out of that? So I can't remember the question that you asked to get me started on that.
I don't know either.
We're here now.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that rabbit hole.
Yeah. Jack Rabbit.
Of
all trades hole.
Jackrabbit of all trades. That could be something. TaskRabbit of all trades.
Well,
That's kind of like what TaskRabbit is. Your TaskRabbit? The guy, we hired the guy to install our pull-up bar on TaskRabbit.
Oh yeah. Interesting. Well, I was thinking of merch. Like, what would it mean to create a brand or a T-shirt or whatever?
I'm gonna start
and I thought
puzzles.
Master of None.
Oh,
I'm like,
yeah.
Z's got us on that one.
Yeah, he did. He kind of slid in there first.
But honestly, like the concept of being a Master of None and like wearing it proudly versus like pathetically, is really fascinating. I think.
It's very cool. I think it comes from, I feel especially like, I think confident in it now, because photography felt like, and still feels like, I'd say the thing that I have the most like quote unquote mastery over.
Yeah.
Because it's been my career, like 10 years of time put into it, and jobs of like such a wide variety over all the years. Like that feels like the thing that I could pick up at any point and just, I know it like top to bottom, left to right. Like that's kind of the thing, like the anchor for me in a lot of ways. And I think that also does provide me some security and confidence in being able to branch out a little bit, is because like that's always a fail safe. Like that in and of itself, like that business model is like something I can always go back to if need be.
Right.
But I like being able to explore and see what these other things that I have some level of control and expertise in, and just like seeing what can happen from it, which I think is like a cool like curiosity to kind of figure out.
One thing that makes me feel sad is when longtime friends that I have who are niched into photography and particular
Okay.
or filmmaking in particular, and just like one skill, one lane. Not saying these people are unsuccessful. They're actually really successful in that lane. They will frequently come to me and be like, I wish I didn't have to do this all the time to continue the income I need here. And it's not, I mean, the concept is kind of like being enslaved to that work to have the outcome. And I think a lot of those people are really afraid to branch out and try the new thing. Like they really want to. And I'll have discussions with them like, oh, you could do this, you could do blah, blah, blah. But so much of the time they remain in that lane. And that isn't a bad thing. It really truly isn't.
No, it's traditional work.
Right.
Like most people would have careers in one job and one industry for 40, 50 years.
Right.
And that was just it. That's just the way life was.
The difference is like it feels like at the core of our millennial souls,
Freedom.
we don't want to be in that lane for 30 years. So I know it speaks to a lot of people listening where if you have the ability to do so, and you're in one lane right now and you're finding a lot of success in it, but you see that burnout coming, don't be afraid to start stacking the bricks in the other lanes to keep those options open. That's going to be a sacrifice of time. That's going to be a sacrifice of energy. You might lose sleep. You might lose some time with friends. You might have to sacrifice some family time. But if you want it to be a reality, it's going back to the running metaphor. I'm starting to think of times that I could run in the marathon distance 2 years from now. And I've never seriously considered an Olympic trials qualifying time, which is under 2:18. And now I'm starting to get into that window where I'm like, wait, hold on. Is this actually possible for me? I'm like, I'm starting to get into the realm where I think it might be. There's no chance that would be what I'm starting to think if I wasn't stacking the bricks all the time.
You don't wake up and decide that. Yeah, you put 10 years of time into something.
And it's not even, you can't even perceive it as a potential outcome until you're like 3 years in.
Sure.
For stacking for that long.
Sure. Yeah.
And so to give yourself the opportunity to have whatever outcome that is that you desire, that's maybe a diversification of your skill set and entrepreneurship and artistry. You have to be willing to stack the foundational bricks. That's the only way. Like you can't just, to your point, like to have this new niche job that you get hired for, you're like, oh yeah, it involves photography, but it's going to involve writing in this way. And I need to sharpen my skills. Well, what did you do? You started stacking bricks in writing. You started stacking bricks in design. You started doing that in the way you did and modeled in your photography career. And then all of a sudden you had a resume that was available and ready for that job. One thing I want to say after your monologue was like, it would be so cool for us to actually write out a formal resume.
That would be really fun, actually.
And just be like,
that'd be interesting. Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Because we don't need to.
Yeah.
There's no world where that's necessary in our line of work. But I feel like we just stare at that thing and just be like, okay, this is a lot more impressive than I've like considered. Like the amount of things, the things I've accomplished already, the skills that I do have. And yeah, maybe even using that as a tool to get hired for something.
It's kind of a fun idea, actually.
Yeah.
The
like
idea
a whole
of like,
YouTube video that's like, here's my traditional resume.
Yeah. As a creator, as an independent artist. I'm
going to sit down and like, you can like, you as the audience are the interviewer. And I'll be interviewed, and this is my resume. And
you have to use one of those traditional LinkedIn templates for it. You just plug everything into something that looks so weird to have all those things in there. That would actually be so fun to see all of that. I like that idea. That's fun. We should make like a...
Can you put it on your website? That'd be kind of awesome.
That'd be kind of amazing. I almost want to make like a template for
other people to do it too.
Yeah, right. Like that'd be...
It's almost like a call to action, like, hey, right? Okay, let's do it. Sit down.
Yeah.
And let's hold each other accountable to doing it.
Let's actually do it.
Write your own resume and look at it and see where you're at.
Yeah.
And where you want it to be in a couple of years.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I think that'd be really fun. Yeah. Okay, cool. I'm thinking about mine now too. But
and then to hold us even more accountable, whether it's an Instagram story or a post on RallyCap's Instagram.
Yeah.
Post our resumes.
Great. Okay. Yeah, we'll do that. I think an Instagram post out of that would be really cool.
Cool.
And then we can, if people want to, they can tag us in stories or something. Also,
sick.
like share it on their Instagram story or something like that.
Oh, that's really cool.
And then I like that idea a lot. That's very fun. I want to make a template now for it. That'd be really cool.
Yeah, and then design it.
The official like Rally Caps,
and then they can fill out their own.
Yeah.
Oh,
like they could just use that one.
Yeah.
And then, okay, that's fun. Cool. Great.
Sweet.
I love it.
Cool.
That seems like a great place to conclude for the day.
I knew I was gonna love this episode.
You have your homework assignment. We'll figure out if we make a template or not.
Yeah.
And thanks for listening. Thanks for watching.
That was fun.
I think I said it earlier, but I can't remember because we've been everywhere, everything everywhere all at once. If you enjoyed the show, if you're watching on YouTube right now, subscribe to the channel, like the video. You also can, believe it or not, leave a rating and review on Spotify and Apple Podcasts or wherever you find podcasts. Please do that as well. We would love and appreciate that support so much. And that little act of just a little 5 stars really helps indicate to podcast algorithms that you're enjoying this and that more people should be listening so that we can just share these conversations with a wider and wider audience and make the Rally Caps team even bigger. So thank you so much. Appreciate you guys. And
love y'all.
We'll see you next week.
Thanks for a great convo. It was good.
That was very fun.
See ya.